Welcome to JC Sports. I'm your host, Show Chap. Today we have some breaking news. The Detroit Tigers are going to call up Jackson Jobe. Jackson Jobe is going to be called up. He's their top he's the number 6 overall prospect. He's the top prospect in the Tigers organization. And in conjunction, the Detroit Tigers will DFA Shelby Miller. It's believed that Jackson Jobe will start in the bullpen, but there's perhaps a chance that he goes in the starting rotation. You never know how this could go, but it's interesting because I was wondering this because usually when you get a player that's called up to the majors around this time, they're not eligible for the playoff roster. A lot of people are reporting. Ivan Woodbury of M Live is reporting this. That my understanding is that Jackson Jobe would be eligible for the Tigers postseason roster. He could serve as a replacement for Sawyer Gibson Long, who spent the entire season on the 60-day DL. It comes in a good timing because the Detroit Tigers have been one of the hottest teams in baseball. If you look over the course of the last couple months, the Detroit Tigers are 27-12. They are the best team in baseball over that period of time. Better than the Dodgers, better than the Mets, better than the Padres, better than the Braves, better than the Astros, better than the Yankees. These are teams that are going to be contending for the World Series. So when you talk about how difficult of a journey has this been for the Detroit Tigers to get to this point, look at this. In June, they had a 7.1% chance to make the playoffs, 6.9% chance to make the playoffs in July. August 11th, they had a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs. Virtually a zero shot. Virtually a zero shot. September 6th, 4%. And then now they have a 70.7% chance of making the playoffs. What has spawned this run? Well, you could start with players that are young kids that are just don't really have a clue in the world about what pressure is, and they're taking it in conjunction. You know, guys like Jace Young, Parker Meadows making all these great plays in the outfield. You know, Riley Green, Kerry Carpenter, who's his slugging percentage is somewhere around the same over a course of a couple months as Shohei Ohtani and Aaron Judge. I'll bring that up in a different video because I have a different statistic for it. But just this Tigers team has played above and beyond what anybody has thought they would do. To be honest, like I don't think there is anyone that was saying that the Detroit Tigers were going to make a run towards the playoffs in August. Even at the beginning of September, people were like, "Is this Tigers team real? Potentially not. Or is this a fake run? Potentially." As the days went by, the Detroit Tigers kept winning. The Minnesota Twins kept losing. The Kansas City Royals kept losing. And now the Detroit Tigers find themselves in a spot where they can make the playoffs in this year. And it's incredible. But who has spawned this run that the Tigers have been on? Look no further than this bullpen. You know, Tyler Holden, 22.2 innings pitched, 0.79 ERA. His strikeout percentage is 23.8%. Based on balls is 3.8%. Jason Foley, 20 innings pitched, 0.89 ERA. His strikeout rate is 22.7. You look at Bo Brisky, 169 ERA, 24% strikeout rate. Brent Herter, who I've never heard of in my entire life. He has a 2.41 ERA, 26% strikeout rate, 2.4 base on balls percentage. The only guy on this whole thing that you look at and you go, ooh, it's been a little bit rough. It's obviously been Shelby Miller, who is getting DFA'd, and Kenta Maeda, who we expect should be bought out this year. But when you look at that 1 through 6, you see a good parameter of these players are pitching their ass off. 2 through 6, they're pitching their ass off. This is why the Tigers have made the run that they're on. And everyone could talk about the hitting. Everyone could talk about AJ Hinch. Everyone could talk about that, this, and that. AJ Hinch and Chris Fetter, they deserve a huge round of applause. There is no one on Green Earth that would say Bo Brisky, Brent Herter, Brendan Hanafy, and Brian Sammons would be players that would take this Detroit Tigers team into the playoffs. There's no one. This bullpen is just fugazi. They're pitching starters as openers, bullpen players as openers. They don't even have a full rotation, and they're somehow winging it. Every game that they're in, they seem to find a way to win. It's amazing. But the Detroit Tigers have a very good shot to be in the playoffs, and the Major League Baseball put out this graphic today where the Detroit Tigers would be playing the Houston Astros in the wild card round, where they would be playing a chance to play the Cleveland Guardians. And if they keep winning, they could potentially take the spot from the Baltimore Orioles and play the Kansas City Royals at home. What the Detroit Tigers have done is nothing short of amazing in terms of the way they have fought through so much adversity. When you think about having a 0.2% chance to make the playoffs and you are in the playoff position with a 70% chance to make the playoffs as of September 23rd, you've done everything right. The Detroit Tigers, for once, show that they have a little bit of oomph to them. Unlike the Detroit Red Wings last year, who they had that playoff run and then late in the season they fell off, the Detroit Red Wings could be replaced by the Minnesota Twins, and the Tigers could find themselves in the playoffs like the Washington Capitals. Everyone watched the Red Wings fall. Everyone was disappointed with the Red Wings fall. But when you look at what the Detroit Tigers are doing, it's the exact opposite of what the Detroit Red Wings did. And the Minnesota Twins are taking the place of the Detroit Red Wings last year. You're hoping that it doesn't happen this year, but the Detroit Tigers are playing their A+ game. And when you get into the playoffs, especially baseball, you have a shot to win at every single option, especially when you're playing as good as baseball as the Detroit Tigers have been playing. They got a bullpen. They get timely hits. They're playing great defensively. Even ESPN is saying they have a good shot to be a contender. And when Jeff Passan put out there that the Detroit Tigers were calling up Jackson Jobe, when Cody Stavenhagen put it out there, I was shocked because I didn't think it was entirely possible. But what we're seeing from the Detroit Tigers is they have a legitimate shot to play in October. So they're gonna make that risky move right now. And it's not really risky, but they're using loopholes to get a top prospect to play in the postseason. Now we don't know what's going to happen from here on out, but when you play the Tampa Bay Rays and the Chicago White Sox 6 games, I think you should win at least 5 of them or 4 of them. But that's the least that you should do because those teams are wretched, and the Detroit Tigers have been playing really, really good. So this is a chance for the Detroit Tigers to make the playoffs, and if they do, AJ Hinch deserves Manager of the Year more than anybody out there in the baseball world. It's been a great run for the Tigers, but I think they're just going to start to continue their track as they play tomorrow. They start a 3-game series against the Tampa Bay Rays, and then a 3-game series against the Chicago White Sox. And it's going to be very interesting because the Detroit Lions don't play on Sunday, so the Detroit Tigers could realistically lock up a playoff spot on Sunday with no Lions in the forefront. This is Jason Sports. I'm your host, Show Chap. I'll see you in more Detroit Tigers videos as we can go along with the rest of the season. But this has been a phenomenal time for the Detroit Tigers, and this Jackson Jobe call out really puts it in perspective of what to expect from the Detroit Tigers here and into the future. See you in the next video as we talk more Detroit Tigers baseball.